How about you, David? Like, how do you do that? Like, you have a very solid presence in all these different, like offline brands and different malls. And how do you kind of understand the behavior of your consumers from different channels?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Shopify has some fantastic reporting that you can basically dig into the people who are coming to you directly. Amazon, if you sign up for, their brand intelligence is just
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. You can see, what is going into their cart when they choose you,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what else is in that basket, what happens in terms of when they don't. Um, Helium 10, which is just a Chrome plugin. I cannot recommend that high enough in terms of just looking at what's happening on Amazon, looking at trends, looking at what consumers are starting to dial in, and then seeing, we've launched a bunch of products that have worked online and then haven't worked in brick and mortar. We've also
Mm-hmm.
launched products that have had the inverse, that
Mm-hmm.
work in brick and mortar but don't work online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interesting. We've been doing this for 10 years, and I'd say that, when we were first, and we still have a long way to go, but like now, thankfully, we have, IRI and Nielsen panel data, which is crazy. Like the insights that we can get from that, the household penetration that, depending on the brand we're talking about, looking at loyalty and looking at, what else is, is, or where she's shopping. It's fascinating. So I think it depends on the stage that your company is in. Early on,
Mm-hmm.
talk to your early customers, your most loyal customers, figure out why they like you, why they continue to come back to you. I'm a big believer in, sneezers, and in a sense that, Tim Ferriss, and the idea that you should just lean into the people who really love you.
Mm-hmm.
I also love really niched brands that have an incredibly strong following. See the same thing with certain types of brick and mortar companies when we're assessing whether it makes sense to acquire a brand.
Mm-hmm.
If they're only in 100 doors, but yet they're outselling all their competitors, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, that's a heck of a lot stronger of a business than if you're in 10,000 doors and you're selling below the category average.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's so much power in understanding your consumer. The nichier, the better, just as a blanket statement, but not always true.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you progress and grow, there's just a bunch of data that you can get your hands on,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to figure out, what is worth your time, and
Yeah.
what are the KPIs that really matter. I do want to go back to something that Jennifer said about 20 minutes ago that really struck home for me, and that is, charity is great and wonderful, but I can tell you from really bad experience. So this is what Soapbox looks like today.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Soapbox used to look like:
Mm-hmm.
bad, good, or
Yeah.
at least better, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
there's some tweaks that we can do to make this, but this is awful. This is horrific. Like, do not do this. Anyone
Mm-hmm.
who's watching this,
Mm-hmm.
unless you want to waste a lot of money, then
Mm-hmm.
this is an excellent way to do that. So, we thought that people cared so much about the mission that on that previous branding, we took up about 25% space on the front pack. And the truth is that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a purpose-driven brand. All of our brands have purpose, but the, Everlane, or companies, or like Function of Beauty, like companies where the mission coincides with the central value prop,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we see a lot of really just awesome success with a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I mean by that is, like, the further your mission is away from, like, drawing attention away from why your value proposition is better to the end consumer, the more
Mm-hmm.
confusing it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden you're confusing the customer in terms of why are they there to buy whatever you're selling,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever mission that may be really important to you, but
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily important to the consumer, and or is just getting in the way of like what they're there to buy for.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of thought that
Mm-hmm.
should be put into what is the mission about and how it is related to your potential product. So for example, this is a true story. There was an entrepreneur and this person was amazing, but they called me up about like 6 years ago and they were like, hey, I want to start a scarf company.
Mm-hmm.
And every scarf that we sell, we're going to donate to the suicide prevention hotline.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, I love that. And I think that, you know, what you're trying to do with funding this amazing service is amazing, but I don't think it should ever be attached to this type of garment.
Yeah.
And this individual was quite upset by that, but I was like, hey, I'm just genuinely trying to be as earnest as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
People don't necessarily want to be thinking about suicide when they're putting on apparel. Like that is not the fit you want in terms of that. So, you know, maybe, and honestly, it's probably going to be detrimental to what you're trying to build. So I think purpose can be an amazing accelerant for whatever you're trying to build in a for-profit business, but it has to make sense with what is the actual consumer mindset when they're trying to make that purchase and why are they there to shop.
Wow, that's an amazing insight, David, I must say. And as you said it rightly, I think it's when a consumer is buying thing, it's only thinking of what value add that product is doing. But I think it has to find that intersection with what the consumer wants to do and what the brand wants to do. I think they somehow kind of sometime overlap, sometime they may not. But as you said it rightly, I think ultimately consumer is the king. So constantly evolve, iterate, and move forward, I think. And I think the way you showed that comparison of your product bottles, I think, wow, that's amazing. I think it truly conveys how you are kind of implementing the learnings while executing all those plans going forward. Amazing.